Good.
Good, good, good. So I did some talking to Donna this morning, and I was just talking to Michael Hayes. He was here for a visit,
Yeah.
and I got some ideas about talking about being mortal.
Okay.
Okay. So have you read some more of it, or where are you at?
No, I've read. I browsed through a lot of it, so I think I've got a very good sense of. It's like the threads that go throughout all the narratives. I focused in as you want. Yeah, go on.
So, whatever. So, the point is, I'm thinking more generally about it, which is, I've been, sometimes I read stuff totally out of field, and what I get from myself is an idea like libraries, and libraries can be for liberation, they can also be for oppression, and it depends what kind of books you put in it.
Yeah.
So, this book here, what I've noticed is that everybody I talk to who reads it comes away with a very different story. And sometimes I'm very surprised because they don't seem to get it from my point of view. Now, I've read it twice, and I'm sort of browsing on a third time. The first time that I read it, it was very liberating. It really gave me a whole other way of looking at life and death. It gave me a whole other way of looking at the intervention, medical intervention, which is not necessarily problematic, but very helpful. And the second time I read it, I found it quite oppressive in a way, because all of a sudden I'm noticing that there's this statistic and there's that statistic, and people can't this and people can do that. And it also notes that when a person becomes particularly depressed, they can't create their own story. They just have to live with what's going on.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, how are you reacting to this, to the whole picture of what you're reading, and maybe some specific points? I'll make one specific point. I was very taken by the whole, maybe you saw this, they brought in 2 cats, 4 dogs, or some version, and 100 parakeets. Did you see that?
No.
They brought this home to change the whole environment, and they did. But the only way that's going to work is if the person who's doing it has the gumption to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
It's not going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
So tell me some of your reactions to this, given what I'm saying, and the notion between whether this is very liberating or in some ways oppressive, or or neither.
Yeah, well, it's like you. Right. The first time that I read it, because I'd also got the page 141, which was actually quite different to the actual narratives. So I felt this resonance with the narratives, where each one was making a point about, if you like, community, about care, about very different kinds of contexts, which individuals could be seen to be working together to alleviate difficulties in terms of end-of-life care. So I read it and I just felt very easy, and I felt comfortable in what the writing was showing me, and especially the point about the difficulties of imposing a kind of standard formal medical model on the lives of the end-of-life care of people. So I felt, as I say, my first reading was very, very comfortable. Now, like yourself, I actually then started to want more related to page 141, because I wanted the individual, and the author of this was not actually accounting for himself in terms of his own end of life and the sense of the productive life that he was living. Whereas 141 was actually focused on what is it that, as we're telling each other our stories, is making our lives worthwhile, even though that sense of the certainty of death is there, but we're actually willing to put ourselves now into this inquiry and account for ourselves. So those were my responses at the moment to the readings.
And what did what did that do? What did that? How did you react to that?
Well,
That you were.
yeah,
I mean,
my reaction was
what
this.
does that mean to you in terms of your own life?
Well, on Thursday mornings, I go to see this guy Pete Mallett, and he's doing something very similar to what we're talking about. And his son died when he was 30, I think he was 38, of malaria, after he'd been on a visit to Ghana. And when both our sons were 19, Peter's son Paul got leukemia and nearly died. And I actually lived literally with Pete and helped him to work through that tremendous difficulty on his visits to Bath, as seeing his son near death. Now, Pete is actually constructing a story in relation to death of his son, but also with the possibility of what does this mean for him living a worthwhile life. So reading the book, having these conversations with you, has focused my attention on that sense of living a worthwhile life with whatever time we've got left. And it evoked in me, Jerry, something that you said to me years ago, and this came to my mind as I was thinking about working with you, when you said that you were fascinated by some of my PhD students. And I've got 4 at the moment that are absolutely fascinating human beings in terms of what they're doing in different parts of the world. So again, it connected in with something that you'd said to me about my own life and what was actually worthwhile about it in terms of what you'd seen in terms of my students. So those were some of the thoughts that actually, have been evoked in terms of what we've been doing and the text.
So tell me specifically, or tell me again, what is it that I did say to you?
It was during the AARA, one of our ARAs, and you said to me that what you were fascinated by in relation to the work I did was the work of my doctoral students. That you were really fascinated by the things that, if you like, they were doing and thinking. And it was just something that it stayed with me in terms of what you were saying you were interested in, as you saw some of the things I was doing. You connected in with, the doctoral students that actually came sometimes to ARA, the self-study groups, the self-study conferences. And I'm still going with that in terms of, what I've got 4 at the moment.
Yeah. When I think about that, what strikes me, my memory strikes me, is that your doctoral students at the time made me feel very positive, very strongly positive about your work, not by looking at you, but by looking at them.
Yeah.
And if these people can be like this, and I'm in the room with them, and I get to know them, I say, wow, Jack's got a. It doesn't matter what you've done, but you're in a relationship with them that works for them, and obviously is part of your influence.
Yeah, and it was that, Jerry. It was that recognition of yours that hang on, I don't know why. Hang on, some of the work that I do. Just hang on, something's come on. I don't know. Can you hang on, Jerry? I don't know why it is, but the telly's just come on. Hold me a second. Okay, I don't know how that came on.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was that, Jerry. It was you saying exactly that you felt that some of the things, if you like, because of what you saw my doctoral students doing, and they were obviously clearly influenced by me, that, if you like, some of the things I was doing were worthwhile because you could see that influence in terms of what the students themselves were able to do.
Right. Now relate this back to being mortal. Say this again, how this relates to being mortal.
Yeah, on page 141, you'll see on that paragraph, I could even read it, that
I've got it right here. You quoted it, and I've got it right here by my side.
That last sentence of that paragraph. Have you got it? Hang on. Okay, so it's where it says, right. Now, whilst this is related to the medical profession, Jerry, I related this to, if you like, the lives that we are living It says an increasing number of them believe their job is not to confine people's choices in the name of safety, but to expand them in the name of living a worthwhile life.
Right.
Now,
Right.
yeah. So,
and so that applies to us at all ages.
it does. And that's what excites me, if you like, that, yes, I can see the relationship with the medical profession, where it says the professions and institutions we turn to should not make it worse. But I'm all the time recognizing that we're all in systemic, if you like, organizations that are influencing what we do. And many of those are constraining and limiting. And yet what we're trying to do is trying to expand the kind of lives that we live. And it's in the name of living a worthwhile life. And that really focused my attention. Are you okay? You've frozen.
So when you think about this conversation that we're having,
Yeah.
you could write what it is you're saying now as a connection between yourself and this book, and a connection between you and me in this book, and how we, in some way, you imagine we're thinking like this together.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, Jerry. I'll just drop you a note which says that, because I would be very excited, again, in the sense of co-creating with you, if you like, both of our responses. So I can then ask you about what it is that you're working on. But I will make that connection for you because it was something you said to me which has stayed with me. You know, I've borne that in mind in terms of what I do that I think is worthwhile. And it's very much related, yeah.
Now take it from another angle. So you live in a 3-story house.
Yeah.
And do you have some notion when you're looking at this book how it is as you get older you're going to be able to manage in a way that works for you? I mean, we live on one floor, as you know.
I remember.
You've been in my apartment.
Yeah.
And we got this place. Go ahead. You going to say?
Oh, sorry. Just hang on a sec, Jerry. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah. 1:15. Yeah, we'll be there. I'm on Skype with Jerry. Yeah, of course. Yeah, 1:15. Okay, then. Bye. Sorry, it's Joan. She's been in London. I'll go and collect her about 7:15, so I've plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how long will it take you to get there to the station?
Oh, it's only 5 minutes, less than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, you see, my mum died at 93, and literally until the last week, she was independent in her own home that we'd lived in since 1950. Now,
wow.
I have that vision of, if you like, of myself, of looking at this, and at the moment, having absolutely no problems with whatever I do within this house.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, you know, I recognize that, yeah, if it's difficult to get up the stairs, whenever that comes, we'll have to face those questions. But at the moment, they're not questions that are literally imminent. You know, something can happen, we know this. But at the moment,
of course.
Yeah, that's where I am, yeah.
So that you find, are you saying that you find this book liberating for you, that it gives you the kinds of ideas that make you feel like you know what you're doing?
If you like it, as I say, I read it, and if I say I felt comfortable, it felt good that so many groups and individuals were finding appropriate ways of developing end-of-life care, and I particularly liked some of the illustrations from the different cultures about how the extended families were looking after the senior citizens. You know, that was all. It just felt very comfortable. Now, because I don't have any sense of needing care as I get older, you know, I'm a member of what's got dignity in dying. You know, I've absolutely no problem of feeling for myself. Look, I might get to a point where I just say, look, okay, I've had a fantastic life, but that's it. Now, the thought of a long drawn out care process, at the moment I have not had to face, Jerry.
Right.
But the book itself,
no,
yes, I just felt that I just feel very comfortable with reading this, and it was a pleasure to think that this person is in the world. And then I felt, well, actually, what I want to concentrate on is page 141, which, as you pointed it to, is what am I going to do between now and then, in the name of living a worthwhile life. That's what I found.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this makes sense what you're saying about yourself. Now, somehow or other, maybe you can make the comparison. That's how I responded to the book when I first got it.
Yeah.
And now, as well, not now, but just before now,
Yeah.
What I saw was there's a lot of limitations that the book is pointing out, and that somehow or other, for me to incorporate those limitations is that I have to be somehow creative out beyond the many limitations that I see in the book, and having a full recognition that that I might get bollocksed up, because if I lose my energy, if I lose my sense of creativity, then I won't be able to write my own story. I'll be stuck someplace no matter how. I mean, right now, if something should happen to one of my children, I feel like it's going to be a hard go to apply all of this.
Yeah.
And so there's a way in which I'm simultaneously liberated and simultaneously worried.
Yeah.
And so then going back to what I said is this book was the true beginning. This book is the true beginning of how I saved my life, and that's true.
Yeah.
But now, as I look at it, and I imagine the future, the insight I get right at this moment, is don't worry about the future, worry about now.
Yeah.
And right now, talking with you is just a pleasure, and I'm having a good time. And when I get off the phone, I will go over to Whole Foods and get myself some sushi, because Donna won't be back until after 10. And so somehow or other, I can see at the moment that the book is a comfort as I look at all of the various, and advance me what it means to be alive and dead. That they're all part of the same package. Yep. In a way that I never thought of before. And somehow or other, I get the idea that I was very limited before, and I am not limited now, not as limited now as I was then. And so what makes this work is my talking to you out beyond the book, and it's the conversation, the very conversation that we're having, that makes me feel that why the book can be so important, that it's not just about reading the book, but it's about talking about the book. Yeah. And thinking about the book. And so yay.
That's great. Well, look, I will do this tomorrow, Jerry. I'll do what I said.
Okay.
You go and enjoy your sushi. Good. I'm very envious. Yes, go and enjoy your sushi.
And you go enjoy getting Joan to get her home. And then you write that up, and then we'll have another talk about that, and then we can wind this up as stage one of what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's great, Jerry. That's really good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You take care. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.